I'm Brian Storm, and this is the secret to smarter AIs using strategies. No, not strategies, not these, but strategies. The idea is you pray to him and your AIs will be better. But look at this picture of Jesus. Doesn't it kind of remind you of an NHL player? Sagan is the second coming confirmed. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to show you guys my strategies, show you how to adjust your strategies, and tell you what each setting does in case you want to switch things up. First things first, if you set your strategies in the menus, like in the HUT menus, they'll be saved for all the games to come, and this is how you get to your strategies. I'm pretty sure you can do it in franchise mode, and maybe even in Be a Pro if the coach lets you. If you're playing something like Versus or against your friends, you can set up your strategies here, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to do this every time. And then when you're in the middle of a game, you can use the D-pad and the X and B button or the square and circle button to change things on the fly. So before we get into my strategies, I want to show you guys that they've been working pretty well. I'm using a fairly cheap team compared to everyone else. These strategies combine explosive offense, punishing forecheck, and no-risk defenders on the offensive end. And on the defensive end, it is clog the middle of the net and block any shots that are taken. You have to make sure that you buy into the system, though, because if you stray away from these fun days, then these strategies are useless. I'm going to get into each setting, tell you what it is, how it's used, and why I chose what I chose. Starting things off is the forecheck. The forecheck basically is how much pressure you put on your opponent when he has the puck in his zone. The first visual is for 1-2-2 passive, and it shows one player being somewhat more aggressive than everyone else. The guys in the back are just focused on staying back. 1-2-2 aggressive is the opposite. You have 3 guys pressuring and then 2 guys in the back that are looking to take away the passing lanes. In these situations, the green team is the opposing team with the puck in his zone, and purple is the one with the strategy set. 2-3 has 2 people being aggressive on the puck carrier and then 3 people being passive. Basically, 1 forward is kind of just sitting back. And it's kind of a mix between the most aggressive and the most passive setting. Finally, you have weak side lock, and what weak side lock is your defenseman on the side closest to the puck carrier will get in on the forecheck and try to help out. Honestly, in this situation, he seems kind of useless, but if the opponent's trying to clear the puck, then he can get it a lot easier. I prefer aggressive to give my opponent the least amount of breathing room. If your opponent likes to dump the puck from behind the net, would highly recommend 1-2-2 passive. From there, we go into the neutral zone. When your opponent gets it out of his zone and into the middle of the ice, that is how your team's going to set up there. 1-3-1 means one person's pressuring the puck carrier, 3 people are in the middle, and then 1 person hangs back. Next, we have 1-4-1. One person's pressuring the puck carrier, and the other 4 set up along the blue line. This is the best strategy for beginners and playing against the AI. It makes it very difficult for the opponent to enter your zone. 1-2-2 red is pretty much like a bunch of obstacles are in the neutral zone that your opponent has to get through to get into your zone, and those would be your 4 players. The problem that I have with this is one quick breakout pass and your opponent's going to get through most of your players. 1-2-2 blue is a more aggressive version of 1-2-2 red, and I think it's the best strategy to use against puck raggers. Your players in the back will be a lot closer up and they can get in on the play if need be. But 1-3-1 is the best one to have playing against skilled players because the one guy in the back stops your opponent from getting easy breakaways. This slider affects whether your team is more likely to follow your forecheck strategies or your neutral zone strategies. For me, every chance they get, I want them to be aggressive. We don't want them setting up in the neutral zone when the opponent's still in his zone. So then we're just going to sit there and nothing's going to happen. Much like this real world example where the Tampa Bay Lightning don't apply any forecheck on the Philadelphia Flyers because they're already set up in the neutral zone. Don't be that guy. Or in this case, don't be that Guy Boucher, coach of that Lightning team. For offensive pressure, I'm not going to use visuals. Oh wait, does it not work like that? That's okay. But the offensive pressure pretty much just says how often you want to get your offensive players in on a play. And aggressive and full attack is more about the defenders. Full attack means your defenseman will pretty much always get in on the play, and aggressive means sometimes they'll get in on the play. Standard is just them just doing what they're supposed to do. Conservatives, they'll try not to be in a bad situation. And defend lead has them playing as cautious as possible. And even though you may not be winning, this is the best option because because your defenseman will hang back as far as possible. So this setting prevents a lot of breakaways from occurring. At least AI-generated mistakes given up breakaways. Defensive pressure is how aggressive your players are in your zone. Protect the net's the most passive version, while high pressure has your defense going after the puck carrier all the time. While protecting the net's about blocking shots, containing puck is standing between the puck carrier and the net. Normal mixes the two, while puck side attack applies pressure on one end of your defensive zone, either the left or the right, and has your defenders play more passively on the other end. Depending on my opponent, I'll switch up between protect the net or high pressure. I start with high pressure, but if my opponent can handle my AI's aggressive play, then I'll switch to protect the net so that my players can converge towards the net. Now we get to defensive strategy, which is how your players set up in your zone. Tight point is the easiest to explain. Basically, each player has their own task on who to cover. It's the most effective against opponents who like to do D-to-D one-timers and score with their defensemen. Collapsing is where your players converge in front of the net to try to block shots. It's very good against cross-crease one-timers, but gives the opponent a lot of space with their defensemen. After this, it's staggered, and staggered is just a mix where one player focuses on the defenseman and everyone else is down low. I prefer collapsing because a lot of players don't pass it to their defenseman at all in offensive situations. If they do, I can pressure the defenseman, get a quick poke check, which will lead to a breakaway. My philosophy is all about clogging the center so your opponent cannot get a shot on the net. Next we get to the penalty kill. The diamond is a 1-2-1 setup against the umbrella power play, which is what is pictured in green. It's only effective against this setup because when you have one person down low, it makes for some easy cross-crease one-timers. Large box has your players spread out in a square formation. They focus a lot on taking away the passing lanes, but the one guy with the puck can have a pretty easy shot on the net if he goes in. Passive box is a tighter version where it's very similar to collapsing. Because there are so many bodies in front of the net, it's harder for a shot to get through. And that is why I choose passive box for all of my penalty killing. Next, we're going to talk about the power play. So this time we're on offense. For power plays, what you want to do is try to figure out what your opponent's doing with his penalty kill first, and then counter it. So Overload has two forwards on one side, one forward on the other side to make for some easy one-timers. This is also pretty much how your forward line strategy works. For shooting, I kind of just realized that I'm using the green team as the team with the strategy. That's okay, you'll live. As your players spread out even further so that any of them can take a really good shot if they have the puck. Lastly, we have Umbrella, and it's based on the shape of the positioning of all of your players, and it kind of looks more like a pentagon, but that's okay. This setup allows you to pass upward or downward and then to the forwards in front of the net with relative ease. The dots may be a little bit too big since it's not easy to tell that they're not really covering the passing lane. I stuck to Overload to be more consistent with my forward lines, but Umbrella might be the way to go unless your opponent counters it with a diamond. PP carry dump is just what your AIs think you're gonna do on the power play. I mean, if you never dump the puck, why would you ever even have that slider even slightly to the right? So that one's all your choice. I don't dump it, as you can tell. Control Breakout is how your AIs react when you start from behind the net with the puck. 3 high has all your forwards going to the opposing blue line. Blue to blue has one winger on the opposing blue line and one winger on your blue line, while strong side slant has your center coming back for some speed and provides you some supporting options for passes. I chose 3 high so my players can be as far up as they can possibly be, so that my breakout passes can pass as many of my opposing players as possible. Similar idea on a power play. You shouldn't have too much trouble getting into the offensive zone on a power play though. You can choose to have all your players go with you at the same time with 5 back. Center lane option and single swing give you more support for passing. Single swing has 2 players turning in towards the middle, while your other 2 players sit along the left and right side. Center lane option is where you're going in on the side, but you're looking to pass it to the middle so that your center goes in. Again, it's not as important because chances are when you get the puck on the power play, you don't go behind your net to set up. Quick Breakout is as soon as you get the puck, what your players will want to do. And the difference between these is your players will either sit by you when you have the puck, or they will go towards the opposing end so that you can get to them with a breakout pass. Stay Wide has your player on the opposite side of the ice go far out, while leave zone early has both players going out. I prefer leave zone early to force as much breakaways as possible. For forward strategies, I have them all the same for consistency. We're going to start with behind the net because it's kind of the easiest to show you. No matter what, with this strategy, you'll have one person behind the net at all times. It gives you a lot more creativity, but it's a little hard to get cross-crease one-timers, which is going from one side of the goalie to the other. Dash the net has the bodies in front of the net be closer to each other so that they can go for deflections and screen the goalie. Whereas overload has them spread out, and again, you have two forwards on one side like on the power play, and focuses more on one-timers. And that's not to say you can't get one-timers with crash to the net, or you can't get deflections and screens with overload. Overload is the best because of how far your players are spread out, though if you can make behind the net work by having plays that are suited for a player being behind the net, you can go with that. We talked about carry and dump. We don't dump the puck. Cycle and shoot not only focuses on letting your AI do the work, but also positioning them to either take the shot or pass it around to find a better opportunity to score. Efficiency and energy is pretty much the effort your AIs display. Full effort is on the right. The reason you'd want it on the left is so that when you take control of them, they'll have all of their stamina and you can like go full speed with them if you want. And then in the defensive zone, we talked about collapsing and blocking shots, so we want to make sure that they stick to that. Hold line and pinch is how aggressive your defensemen are on the forecheck. You want that at 0 so they don't make any stupid mistakes. Whereas cycle and shoot is how your defenseman will set up when you have the puck in the offensive zone. If you have it set to cycle, your defenseman will be closer to the boards, while if you have it set to shoot, your defenseman will be closer to the middle for those D-to-D one-timers. I hope this video helps you guys out, especially your AI, so that they can be smarter. If you guys have any questions related to anything, especially strategies, let me know in the comments below.